This is an older Profoto Q12 Alpha Pack. It is a 1200 watt second pack that is, I don't know, maybe 20 years old. And it is a rather simplistic unit. And I am going to try to walk you through how you can use it. And the majority of this video is actually going to be how do you control the output. And I'm going to suggest an approach for how you can do that. So if that's of interest, please stay tuned. And hello, my name's Steve. I'm an amateur photographer. I work for fun. I use old packs like these Profoto packs. I have a couple of them, and I like grip equipment and light shapers and scrims and all sorts of things associated with lighting. And my path to this was a happy one. I actually, it was the second Profoto pack I picked up. The first one I got a week earlier than this. And I think two acute heads, this pack, an extra large Chimera softbox, $150. And it works. All of it works. There's one part on the pack I'll tell you that isn't working, but it's minor. So a really, really, really great deal with regards to this professional studio equipment. But if you're new to Flash, or if you're upgrading from Speedlight to maybe a monoblock or this pack and head system, what I'm showing you now can be a little bit intimidating. And a lot of the older packs have similar concepts to what I'm going to be talking about here. So there's no output, there's no LCD, there's no like readout in stops or tenths of stops. It's just a bunch of buttons and a dial. So we're going to get into that, and I'm going to talk you through what these buttons do in a little bit more detail. And before I do that, let me just go over some of the basics, and I'm going to focus on the top row there. So the way you turn the pack on or off is with the flash on button. There's a modeling button, so if you have a modeling lamp in your flash head, you can turn that on or off here. There's a test switch. It has a light underneath it, so when you touch the button, it'll fire the strobe, and then once the pack recycles, the light will come back on. So that's the part on my unit that's broken. The light doesn't go on, it's always off. The other buttons that you're looking at right now, I'm going to be explaining in a little bit more detail later, so I'm not going to get into that. Under the handle, there is on the left a dial. So that dial, it's like a throttle. How quickly do you want the pack to recycle? So, if you're worried about the circuitry in the building that you're working in, if it's an older building and you don't think it can handle the recycle time, then you'd probably leave this turned down. And I typically leave it turned down. And then on the right is the sound button. So I use that because the test light does not work. So what that means, and this is standard, when the pack is recharged, there's a little beep that goes off. Two other things I'll call out. The pack does have a sync, infrared sync. So if another flash goes off and it sees it, it'll fire this pack. And then there's it's called a PC sync port, which is also kind of standard. So I use Pocket Wizards, and that's the way I get it connected to a Pocket Wizard. So you can see those a little bit here. The clear circle to the right of the handle is the flash sync, the infrared sync, and then the PC sync cable insert is in the bottom right corner. So before I show you how to control the output, I'm just going to say there are 1200 watt seconds available to this pack. And the way the pack is set up, and a lot of them work this way, not only the Profotos, but Speedotrons and any company making one of these older packs, they're going to reserve, think of it as Profoto calls them groups. So the way they set it up is 600 watts are reserved for group A and 600 watts are reserved for group B. And if you add A and B together, then you can have the full 1200 watts available to A or to B. So in the example I'm going to walk you through, let's just say we have one flash head, and we're going to be putting that one flash head into group A. And I'm going to try to also suggest that one way that photographers work is they will set their lights to an arbitrary setting, and then they'll look at the image either on the camera or maybe they'll put it on a computer, and they'll say, you know what, it's too bright or it's not bright enough, and then they'll start to make adjustments from there. So that's what we're going to do here. I'm going to say, let's have one light, let's give it full power, all 1200 watt seconds, and then I'm going to walk you through how you can systematically take the power in one stop increments down. So the way you get to 1200 watt seconds is the bracket button is set to full power, so that's 1/1. And then the A channel, which is on the left, and the B channel, which is on the right, I'm talking about in the bottom part below the handle, you'll see a switch with a solid white dot and a half white dot. The one on the left is for the A group, and the one on the right is for the B group. So both of those are set to full power. And the A, B, and the A arrow, B arrow, it's set with the switch going towards combining A and B. That's what that means. It's not that intuitive, but really it's saying take the 600 out of A, take the 600 out of B, make them 100% available to either the A channel or the B channel. And so that's why I have the switch pointed to the top, where it's saying AB as opposed to A arrow arrow B, which would isolate it. So everything, 100% of the power, all going to that flash head that we have in Group A. Now imagine I'm going to look at the image and I'm going to say, you know what, it's too bright. I would like to cut it by at least a stop. And the way packs work, and monoblocks work this way as well, is if you cut the power in half, you reduce the amount of light that's going to hit your subject roughly by a half. And when you do that, you've taken a stop of light out of your image. So if you're not familiar with stops of light, or if you're not familiar with the power and how the power on a pack or monoblock relates to a stop of light, in my view, to work with this older equipment, you may want to read about that a little bit and kind of get comfortable with it, because once you do get comfortable with it, then it becomes a lot more intuitive how to adjust these older packs. So we're going to take a stop of light out, and the easiest way to do that at this point, and I should also say there's a prescribed method to doing this. Which buttons are you going to push, and when do you push them? So you may be tempted to take the bracket button and take it from 1/1 to 1/2. That takes out a stop of light. You're cutting the power by 1/2. But we're not ready to use that bracket button at this point, so we're going to leave it at full power. What we're going to do is we're going to be concentrating on that middle button, the AB button. So we're at 1200 now. I want to cut the power at least in half, so I want to go to 600. So if you look at that AB button, I've switched it down. So now what I'm saying is I'm isolating Group A from Group B. So Group A's got 600 watts, Group B's got 600 watts, and they're going to stay independent. I'm not going to allow the flash head in Group A to go any higher than 600 watts. So let's just say I take that image and look at it on my camera, and it's still too bright. So I'm going to take another stop out. And at this point, I'm going to focus on the the group A switch, which is on the left. And all I'm doing is saying I'm going to cut the power in half. So I've gone from 600 watts down to 300. And likewise, if I need to go further, there are no more switches that I can switch. And if you think about that, I have group A set to its lowest setting. I've isolated the power, so A only gets A's power. I'm not adding the B power to it. Now I need to look to the bracket button. And if I want to cut the power in half again, I would set it to 1/2. So that just takes it from 300 down to 150. So the way I look at it is, if I'm at 600 watt seconds as an example, when do you use the bracket button? And the answer is always at the end. If I'm at 600 and I know that's too bright, and I go to 300, and 300 is not bright enough, then at this point I'm going to use the bracket button. And the reason for doing that is the bracket allows you to go in quarter stops. So you don't have to take a full stop out. And the switches at the bottom below the handle, those all operate, you're taking a total of one stop out each time you're flipping those switches. So it's just that the example that I walked you through is taking it down to its lowest range. So 150 watts, if you're coming from a speed lights are about 60 watts. So it's roughly a stop of light, a little bit more than extra stop of light, or double the amount of light at 150 watts that you would get out of a speed light. And if that seems like, oh my gosh, 150, that's the lowest number, that's too high. Well, on the photos that you're looking at here, I shot them at f8, and I think I was probably working at close to 600 watts, and I shot it through some diffusion material. The diffusion material, or a softbox, or bouncing it into an umbrella, or putting a grid. They're all going to eat light. And you'd be surprised at how much light gets taken out. So it's very rare if I'm working at 60 watts, or with one of these packs, because I'm typically using the packs. The reasons that I like to use them and the heads is because I can modify the light. I can put something between the bare bulb and my image, and that for me is a lot easier with the professional pack and head than it is with a strobe. The other, I'll just make this plug, the other thing that's nice about these packs is you don't have to replace the batteries. So you have them plugged into your wall outlet. It's called mains power. I've done other videos that talk about ways that you can use lithium-ion batteries, and those are pretty easy to get a hold of as well. So you don't need a wall plug. You can take it outside. But yeah, so pretty big fan of this, and also would hope that the way that I'm explaining, that you can work with cutting the power by stops, basically cutting the power in half to get to the settings that you want to get to. And once you work with it for a while, it becomes intuitive. That's not to say that output for LCD with the power range for tenths of stops and a full stop wouldn't be nice. But like I said, 2 heads, this pack, a large professional Chimera modifier, or extra large. I think it's 3 by 6 feet. Thing's crazy big. $150. And the only part of that thing that doesn't work is the little light under the test button. So you're not going to probably get a professional pack and 2 heads, even a knockoff one, at that price point. Let me know if you have any questions in the comments. I'd be happy to try to get back to you on that, or if there are some other things around this pack that you would like to know. Again, just put those in the comments.